Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the beautiful new ESL Arena here for the ESL One Cologne offline qualifiers. And of course, as always, Dzień dobry, Katowice! It's fantastic to have you guys all in the arena here to see these games, and a big shout out to you guys joining us online. My name is Mitch Leslie and I will be your host over the next couple of days. There's only 2 days left, and today things start to get very interesting. 2 teams will qualify for the $1 Million Major and 2 teams will be sent home. We've made you wait long enough, so let's jump right into things here as well. I'll introduce our first team in this first match from the CIS region. It's the Fluffy Gangsters. Very strong start for the Fluffy Gangsters. Although they didn't win either of their games, they did push Mouse Sports to overtime on Dust 2. And up against Optic, Little stood tall, but his 30-15 score was not enough to get them over the line in a close game. And of course, their opponents in this one, it is sink or swim for the Aussies. It's the LA Renegades. Truly is sink or swim right now for these guys. They've made no secret about the fact that they're not happy with how their last couple of games have gone. Day 1, they went up against Flipside Tactics and were not able to pull things out there as well. Moving on to Cobblestone, up against Splice on day 2, they suffered similar problems. We have heard, of course, that there have been some mix-ups in terms of calling and changing that up here, but it is last chance saloon. The question is, will the Aussies manage to keep their heads above water, or will they be sent down under and back home? That is the question, Alex. I guess this is going to be definitely an interesting matchup here as well, with the Renegades not showing what may be expected from them thus far.
Now, I need to ask you, Mitch, while I have you over here. Last time you threw to me, you had a little bit of inside Aussie scoop. Is there anything else? Have you got any, words at breakfast time with the Renegades?
It's funny, they always seem to sit down at the same time as me as well. You can see the travel has taken its toll like it has for many of these teams, but confusion about who is the main voice in the team definitely seems to be one of their biggest issues right now as well. Is it Sponge? Is he still calling from the middle of the desk? Or is it PK?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. That's the thing. They kind of changed it up here, so we'll have to see what they go back to today, but I dare say they're going to go with what's tried and true and get Sponge on the voice.
Thanks very much, Mitch. I'll talk to the boys over here on the desk. We've got myself, Metis, and Vendetta still hanging out. And let's make that our first port of call then. Renegades and where on earth they are. It seems like it's been a real turbulent journey for them just here in the past 2 games, and it does look like there's a lot of drama going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, they're in just a really, really dark place. I ran into the guys in the elevator on the way down here, and just like, how's the day going? Just got a really depressive, not great.
Not good.
So they're in a really dark spot right now. It was a mess on Cobble versus Splice. Let's be honest. From what we heard, they started out the game having PK being the game leader, swapped out midway through the game to have Sponge go back to his old assignment, and that doesn't bode well. That if there's any team that's in real trouble, it's Renegades. Nobody's more messed up than they are right now.
Vince, anything to add?
I had the delight, I use that term loosely, of casting that Splice game with Renegades. There were so many weird moments, mistakes, mishaps. I mean, Splice won, but it wasn't really a victory. It's that kind of game. But as Ven said, all I can really do is echo that they are struggling. They're in a dark place, and this is so important for them. If they lose this and they bow at 0-3, I'm curious what the future holds for Renegades.
I have a feeling that not making it to the major could instigate big change for the Australians. There's no doubt about it. But the current 5 is Sponge, JKS, AZR, YAM, if they're going to keep going with the 3 letters, otherwise known as YAM, and of course Estilo. You can see the core of Renegades still, firing on all cylinders. However, there definitely is turbulent times ahead for the Australians. Maybe all that travel did get the best of them. We don't know, and we will investigate further. But their opponents are a much different story. In fact, a much more light-hearted story, as Mitch has already touched on. The Fluffy Gangsters. Not only are they fluffy by nature and by name, but also they have definitely demonstrated that they are a bit fierce when it comes to the battle. You're talking a little bit about that name at the top, though, Halvor. That seems like... Oh, actually, excuse me, let's start with Vince, because I know that Little has caught your eye in a big way.
He's actually the top performing player if you look at stats in this entire tournament right now. It's Little, and then after him is Oscar. Two AWPers, both on struggling teams, but it really has been the Little show. You know, he's picked up crazy highlight reel-worthy plays, but I will also like to highlight Robo a little bit. I think he is a player that's definitely went under the radar a little bit. He's been doing a solid job.
Did you guys see the statistics for Little and his AWP to rifle ratio? Any of you catch that?
It was something around 50 AWP kills,
Yeah.
and the closest thing was 4 P to 50 kills.
Right.
That was like the next thing, and that's probably just because, you know, he kind of had to use it.
He keeps getting the AWP and keeps doing work with it, but so he put a rifle in his hands and he forgets how to play, it seems.
Well, there's the other thing as well. On the CT side, he could really struggle as a result of the economy and not being able to pick out AWPs up. Is he going to have the same level of influence if his team starts to go up against it? That's the question for me.
Yeah, no, I guess up to this point, we haven't really been forced to see that situation, because it seems pretty evident that he is the best player in the team. So it feels pretty obvious that the rest of the guys are gonna, you know, play up to that. And if they have money enough to actually get an AWP, they're gonna just hand that off to Little and make him do work.
Is it safe to say they're coming into this though as the favorites? I mean, just looking at the way we've framed these two teams, Fluffy. Let's be honest here at the start. Let's be frank. We said they were probably one of the most likely to be eliminated.
Punching bag, really.
Was your exact words, in fact. But with Renegades in his current form, could we lean to the CIS team being the favorite in this matchup?
Actually, yeah. With how dysfunctional Renegades have seemed so far in this qualifier, and from all the horrifying things we're hearing from inside the team, and how lacking in confidence they are, I would actually go with Fluffy being the favorites going into this match. Obviously, maps can sway that a tiny bit, but for the better part of it, Fluffy have been the best team of the two.
Talk of maps, the veto is ready, so we're going to throw that up on your screens and see where this goes. And Fluffy immediately, do not hesitate to remove Cash from the map pool. No surprises there.
No, standard banned. It's what they've been banning the entire time. They, from what we know, don't play Nuke either, so I'm expecting that to be a second ban as well. Dust 2, we saw what Fluffy did versus Mouse Sports, brought them into overtime, so that's not really a big surprise either, especially because Renegades don't really play too much of Dust 2 either. As for the rest of the maps, Train being taken out, this is something that's weird to me because, well, it's a map that Renegades have played quite a bit. Not too much in the last couple of months, but they have been okay at it, and it's not really a map where we've seen Fluffy Gangsters be dominant on. We saw them last game, or yesterday. And
haven't they just banned the 2 maps that Fluffy have played so far?
Well, yeah, pretty much.
The reason I actually let out that very strange surprise tie was because I actually thought Cobblestone would be the map that would get played.
Right.
This is the map where Renegades looked a bit shaky, Fluffy Gangsters are solid on Cobblestone. I'm very surprised they've banned this, but Nuke's gone out as well. I was curious if they'd let this one go through to the end.
If this goes to Mirage, which it does, I think Renegades have made a mistake.
Yep, me too.
Okay, and I'm going to let you guys elaborate on that. Mirage scares you for Renegades. Is there a particular rhyme or reason for that?
It's pretty much the best map, statistically speaking, for Fluffy Gangsters.
Perfect. Good to see they've done their research there.
So it's weird, but then again, it's not like it's a horrible map for Renegades by any means, but I think they could have taken that veto. They could have definitely made it harder for Fluffy Gangsters, especially when Fluffy Gangsters are the ones who have to use their veto on Nuke.
Can you guys see the very different vibes from either side of the stage there? You've got pulling funny faces at the camera, smiles and conversation between Fluffy Gangsters, and then you cut to Renegades. It did look like they were just kind of waiting on the chopping block, waiting for their turn.
Well, that's it, right? Because Renegades have been around the block a few times. They've been to fairly big tournaments. They've been here before, then they've done it. Fluffy Gangsters coming into this, again, they probably weren't expecting too much from themselves. They're just here. Renegades have a lot more on the line, I'd have to say. Fluffy Gangsters have already shown that they are a force to be reckoned with.
And of course, this is a battle of survival. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but do just want to remind you guys that this truly is their last opportunity. Should they concede this, they will be going home, and if they do pick up the win, they'll be continuing on into our final day over on Sunday. We are almost ready for this one. Of course, the knife round still does need to go down, and so let's just explore the strength of Fluffy Gangsters a little more. We have got hung up on Little. And I think actually it was Vince who started bringing up a couple of other names.
Robo.
What was it that caught your eye from Robo? I assume you haven't seen too much of him other than at this tournament.
For me, on Dust 2, he showed a lot of composure. He was over on the B side, the CT side, and a bunch of times he held down mid and B at the same time, just by himself. So he really did catch my eye for that reason. But you know, other than him, Chopper has a couple moments of really solid play. I'm very curious to see how they're going to work on Mirage, though, because as you highlighted before, Alex, we haven't seen him play Mirage yet in this event.
And that's going to be a bit of a question mark. Ven, do you subscribe to the whole, you know, lesser-known team advantage because people don't know what they do? I feel like that comes to an extent.
Well, I think it's a legitimate thing to bring forward. Obviously, having known that you're going to play in this tournament for quite some time, I don't think you can use that excuse. If it's a bit of more of a one-off, then sure. that's more valid, but at this point you can't really underestimate anyone going into a major qualifier if you have legitimate aspirations of actually making it, because you have to beat potentially everyone. So but whether or not Renegades have done their work, that's the big question really at this point. But there's plenty of Mirage games to take or get information from on Fluffy Gangsters, so they can't blame that.
They certainly can't. It does seem like we have kind of checked Renegades out here on the desk, but there is a lot of doubt surrounding the Australians. They did have, you know, a lot going for them at their peak. I say a lot. Let's take that with a pinch of salt. They had a lot better than now, kind of going for them. But you can see the knife round is about to go down, and I do feel like we have definitely kind of we've beaten on the Australians enough. Now we're just going to wait to see how this match does go down. I have to admit, personally, I'm a little bit excited for this one just to see what Fluffy can do. It's been the same kind of case as Empire, where the CIS minor teams have actually demonstrated.
Us.
Yeah, they've demonstrated a real ability, and look at the crowd already making plenty of raucous just for that knife round win. It did go the way of Renegades, and if I stay true to myself, if you win the knife, you're going to win the game. That's my very in-depth analysis. I'm glad you tuned in for that one. Boys, it is time for predictions. You know what happens after the knife round. Are you going to do it? Are you going to subscribe with the CIS and their, well, you called them favorites?
Yeah, I'm going to go against your knife round theory here, and I'm actually going to side with Fluffy Gangsters. I think Little is going to be able to create too much chaos.
Little versus Yam.
And I think that's a pretty heavy favorite for Little.
Damn. Okay, finally, Metis.
Yeah, I'd go alongside that. I think Fluffy Gangsters have this. I feel like Renegades have almost defeated themselves already right off the bat of this tournament. So I don't see it happening, but I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love to see Renegades, you know, rejuvenated and come back swinging.
I think we all would. However, it does seem like it. They may be too far gone. It's time for our first match of day 3 here at the ESL One offline qualifiers. Renegades and Fluffy Gangsters are on the ropes. One of these teams is going home after the following 30 rounds or more over on Mirage. Let's dive into it, though, with your casting team as Fluffy Gangsters look to make a name for themselves here at the ESL Arena.
Thank you, Alex, and the desk for breaking that one down so beautifully. And yeah, Renegades up against Fluffy Gangsters, going down on Mirage. This is the elimination game, bearing in mind. Now, Blue, what are your initial thoughts on this matchup now? We know where it's being played, we know how these teams are coming into this, but it's hard to judge their overall performance so far because you always feel that, you know, there's more to give for Renegades, but we've just not seen it. And there's so much potential with the Fluffy Gangsters.
I feel like this is, to be honest, this could be one of the last matches you may see of the current Renegades roster if it doesn't go in their favor here. Considering the fact that they've been looking so weak and there's been struggles across the board now for these guys, they've just been really, really having a hard time making that kind of momentum. And they've been talk about it too. They want to try and become a more top-tier team, but they just have been so unable to do it. So I feel like if they end up bowing out here as well to what was up to this event, a relatively unknown CIS team, that may spell some very major change or perhaps a complete mix-up of the roster in itself.
I think that's a completely fair statement to make. And I think when we look at Renegades now, for me, this team looks broken to pieces. I think that most people can see that across their faces, but I'm hoping that maybe there's that fire in them that's like, well, how do you want to go out as this lineup? Do you want to go down being completely crushed in this on a map that we should be good at, and against an opponent that really we should be beating most days of the week? Sure, Little has been a beast. Okay, we've seen Robo having some really impactful moments, but all in all, Renegades are still far, far better in theory than what we've seen from them so far. But I don't think we're going to see that just yet. I think that the, let's say the breakdown that's happened on the Renegade side has certainly rung true, and I think this will be the Fluffy Gangsters doing incredibly well. I was going to push you for a prediction. Where are you going on?
I'm going Fluffy Gangsters on this one.
Yeah.
I do think that this might be the end of an era in this matchup here with the Renegades getting knocked out, but we'll wait and see. A lot of it's going to weigh on how well players like Little do perform, considering they've been those heavyweights coming into their matchups over the past 2 days. But we're going live into the match now, guys. The pistol round has begun with the Fluffy Gangsters starting off on the T side, and the Renegades jumping onto the defense. Fluffy Gangsters splitting themselves up 3 players outside of the T ramp, with Little and Patron going up for a push in the back B halls currently.
Suri Stillo as well, waiting down by Dark, so he could play a really nice role in this, but he could get over one, but no one's really checked it, so actually he's getting a fantastic deal of information. Land a shot, Stillo, I know it's early, buddy, but what was that? Yam's going to pick up the pieces, and do you know what? you know what? You deserve that, Stillo. What the hell is going on already? This game is ridiculous. I don't know how no one spotted him, but Bomb's still going to be going down at B, and JKS has just been overwhelmed. So they won a little bit of the battle, but certainly not the war, as now Patron and Little are left alive.
So Patron and Little get themselves out of the B-bomb set. Now they're going to hold. So far, though, Ustillo's mistakes were what appeared to be the only big ones from the Renegades side. Yes, they did get tricked a bit, and now they're on this. Now they have to pull up the retake here onto the B bomb site. But as they move themselves in, they're very quickly going to be able to pick up some more frags. Azur and Yam finding 2, and with that, they'll pull off the retake and be able to grab the pistol round.
And you want to see Yam playing well, feeling confident here. He's the one who's going to be dealing with Little, possibly down the line. 2 orbs may clash in that sort of fact. So if Yam starts off confidently, that's pretty awesome. But yeah, you're still what's going on, buddy? That's not the start you want. He was meant to be the fragging power, bearing in mind. This is the guy that came in for Havoc who just didn't really have that much of a consistent, big impact into games. So when Stillo's really not playing well, or just having a bit of a rough start, that's not good. Hopefully he can reset mentally. It's only the first round. Perfectly fine. But looking over at the Fluffy Gangsters, Scout, actually no deagle combo, so the Tech 9 and the P250s actually coming through. So just looking to do some good damage, take some guns away. 3 rifles coming up for Renegades though, so already nice tag towards Yam, going to send him back a little more passively. And he was the one with one of the rifles, so you certainly want to keep him sitting pretty as long as possible.
Going to get tagged even lower now as well, just down to a single health point. Yam's definitely going to have to hide his head for the rest of the round. You can see him wrapping back over. Yep, he's still going for the flank once again, so it'll be another big of a test for him as it lined up. But now with the SMG in hand, picking up at least 1 kill, trying to take down Little, brings him to 8 HP, but actually he's going to be dinked himself. There we go, now doing work with the USP though. He is able to take down Chopper. And with that flank, that should allow for an easy cleanup now in the favor of the Renegades. In fact, it looks like that's going to be the case with Azur finding another kill.
Azur had a rifle as well, so you don't want to be losing out on that one. They can recover it pretty comfortably. Either you still can pick it up, JKS. Patron can make this one costly. He does have the Scout. A couple of players tagged up, Yustillo being one of them. Doesn't land the shot they need to, and there's the kind of recovery from JKS. And I'm not sure if any of them can make it back to the rifle, so actually they've lost out on that. So 1 investment completely removed. Azur's money not going to be as perfect as ideal. But, yeah, looking at the other side of things, Fluffy Gangster's going to go for a bit of a buy into this one. We've got a rifle for Patron, we've got the Tech 9 armor, we've got the Scouts coming out. This could be actually pretty costly for the Renegades if they're not careful now.
So here, the members of the Fluffy Gangsters, Roman, Patron, and Robo, all working their way closer to the A site, with the other 2 taking quick control of middle. Yam's going to be there to try and resist that from inside of the window, but he's very aggressively peeking out, and that's going to cause him to lose his life. Yustillo making the same mistake, leaving himself overexposed, so Patron's going to be able to take him down, and Chopper finds success pushing in through the connector, still manages to keep himself alive too, down to 1 HP, and Azur almost loses his life to a peek from top mid. He's able to hold that 1 versus 1, taking down Little at the very least. But now it's a 2-on-4 retake.
Superb 8-8 coming out from Fluffy Gangsters. Great split through mid as well, really supporting what they were doing. And Azur and JKS so low already, I think it's time to save if they can get out of there. They've got the M4 with Azur, he's going to run the hell away. And you can't blame him, JKS is joining as well. They have the armor and a little bit to work with into the next round. But overall, Fluffy Gangsters looking good so far actually on that take.
Yeah, and with that now, going to be able to get themselves up onto the board really before the first big buy comes in from these guys. As that one has fairly minimal investment in it from what you normally expect from the 3rd round coming out from the T's there. So not only this, but getting a couple of those rifles back into the mix now. The AK back in the hands of Patron. Chopper actually ends up losing himself there. It goes down to the bomb explosion, but I think Roman's close enough, so he'll be able to retrieve the M4. So now going into this next round, we're going to see the big investment coming in for these guys. And Renegades buying right up back into things themselves here, but that's going to run them very low to begin with and taking a bit of a risk. Thankfully, though, they can still afford to do this to a certain degree. Has decent utility enough behind it, so it certainly makes sense at this point.
Decent enough, but Sponge is on the MP9. The utility's pretty limited. They don't have any, well, they only have 1 defuse kit with JKS, but it looks like a faster hit possibly coming out towards A from the T side. They've got a little splitting through, but Sponge is making a great deal of damage come through. That's perfect. Patron and Chopper go down, leaving 3 alive. He has made so much value already for his team, and still almost getting a little bit of a tag towards Roman there, but now into a 4v2. This should be locked down by Renegades. This shouldn't be allowed to go any further than it has. A little too late to the party, sadly. JKS already starting to predict this, consider it may have been happening. And great stuff from Sponge then, just going to be taking the aggressive play towards ramp, and it pays off well.
Yep. 4th round investment, definitely paying off big time there for Renegades as they swing right back into the matchup. The guys on Fluffy Gangsters actually were, for a lot of their players, sort of on the brink of being able to go for the buy-in there, but a lot more of them just not going to be well enough off. So toss out some P250s. I believe that's, sorry to see who does that there. Roman donating 1, and I think Chopper also tossing 1 out for a teammate there too. So just giving those guys those upgrades, and beyond this again, it's very minimal. Just going to be seeing not even any utility or armor sitting up behind this as well. So the rest of the guys on the Renegades getting aggressive in mid initially, but they don't see either Little or Roman because they don't push all the way around. But they do spot those, just push through underpass, and Sponge on top of the pole here almost meets his own death, but Yam's there to cover his backside, and indeed to this point, it was a flawless round. Roman does find one pickup here, but yeah, I'm trying to shut it down against the last player. The nade coming in. It's going to be a little bit to the right, but JKS steals the frag anyway.
You've got to note as well, Sponge not actually turning up. I think it's a bit too early to say turning up, but just getting himself on the board, whether it be against eco teams or just pushing around aggressively, it's not going to be a bad thing for him mentally, considering how badly he played on, I think it was Cobble. He didn't have a bad game on Mirage, but when they eventually went onto that second map of theirs, it just went absolutely atrociously. I think he was on like 2 kills by the half. So for him, as an individual, it'll get him starting to get pumped up. But this is what we were looking at. Little being able to get the AWP into play, but the aggression through mid again, being shown by Renegades. This was brought out before in their previous matchup on Mirage against Flipside, but that's different now. Little responds accordingly to back down to this 4v4, and JKS needs to be careful to not get caught out. Backs away and has to reset this fight.
Little with the op in hand, now he's going to be that fragging power that we've come to know and to a certain degree fear if you're on the other side of it throughout this entire tournament so far. The rest of the Renegades splitting themselves up. You can see Yam waiting to see if there's going to be a connector play coming out in Azur, mainly making sure that they don't fall back and try to push themselves closer to the B-bomb site. Sponge, though, who so far, as you mentioned just a few moments ago, has been sort of the point leader here for the Renegades, is going to be placing himself up on top of the platform, watching for a hit on the A site, whereas on the T side of things, they themselves not entirely sure about the way they're going to approach this as of yet, but with time getting a bit lower, starting to group up in middle. But for Little, he now falls back. It looks like he's going to be pushing himself closer to T-spawn to group up with Chopper.
You still got Robo and Roman as well, able to do plenty of distracting, definitely able to keep the likes of Azur and Yam attached towards B and Cat, but Chopper being in the position he is perfectly fine, but Sponge can kill, just still cause so much problems pushing through towards A. JKS is going to rotate, so it's going to be down to Sponge here. This is all just a ruse, a clever play, just to keep them attached to this. It's caused that rotation. Now Little and Chopper, oh god, Sponge, what was that? Chopper? It's going to just open up this side perfectly. Now they know there's something wrong here. No one pushed her on B, and here comes the bomb.
The best part about this too is Roman and Robo didn't even have to commit to the B-bomb site. They just tossed out a couple smokes. Now they can just go out through the underpass, get themselves in through the connector. JKS has taken down one of them. He actually moves in. Roman and Robo striking right back though, and with 5 seconds left on the clock, they're not going to be able to get to that bomb in time. JKS, he just has to run back into CT spawn and hide, and that's going to be enough of a play for him to win out the round for the Renegades.
Decisive play from JKS in the end. He was the first to make it through Kitchen all the way around. The others had to go through Cat and try and watch that split come into play. But him just costing enough time then for the bomb plant. The two who are trying to toy with B, just not able to make that impact. And again, a big force coming in for the T side here. You've got the AWP with Little. Brilliant stuff to see. Hopefully he gets a bit of work, a bit of play around that. Still got the rifle there with Roman, and the others just buying the Tech 9 to complement it. And Little, uncharacteristically enough, missing a couple of shots here and there. Sitters bearing in mind. And look at the attention coming up from Renegades towards mid. They want to take that fight, and Yam has claimed it. Great stuff from him, but they have completely negated A.
Molly coming back out onto the site here too, just to prevent them from getting a little bit more groundwork with Robo. I'm not sure if he spotted the players pushing him from CT spawn, and if he did, definitely not being too active about resisting it. The flashbang comes back out though, but nicely held there by Azur. Great spray transfer as well to pick up the second frag on the Robo, and now Patron moving out just to try and compensate for this, but it's not going to work. JKS takes him down, and that's another great retake from the Renegades to bring them up 6-1.
And everyone's been incredibly critical of Renegades, and rightly so. But let's turn that eye towards Fluffy Gangsters, because they're also in that same predicament. They've had some good results, picking up some really surprising sort of rounds here and there. But you look at their game on, let's say, Train, for example, they looked like they ran out of ways to approach the matchup tactically. You saw them depending on players like Little to do well. And these very fast, very hap-handed plays that can work out if you win your aim duels. But if you're not landing those shots instantly, you see them start to kind of maybe not have many tricks up their sleeve anymore. So I'm wondering if they may start, suffering a little bit of that on this T side. Have to wait and see. Stilo's going to take matters into his own hands, and it's gone very poorly. That just gets absolutely wiped out. Robo going to be the one to just dominate that, get the early advantage, and remove him again. But the 4 players left standing have generally been splitting these sides pretty well. So Yam bringing out some aggression might pay off a little better.
Where we in the past have seen a fairly split opener from the Fluffy Gangsters, this seems pretty solidified closer to the B-bomb site and then into middle there as well to try and line up a hit inside of the connector there. But Sponge holds things initially. Yam finding a second frag as well, but now Robo striking back. He too, though, is only going to be able to find one, which leaves it just down to Roman, who unfortunately cannot go for this mid play anymore. Has to regroup with his other teammate Chopper, who has been somewhat patiently waiting inside of the palace ever since this round had started. Now Roman's going to be grouping up by the T-ramp, and they'll essentially just go all in on this one and see if they can make any sort of progress. So far, though, Renegades still focusing a lot of their pressure on mid. So again, it's going to fall to JKS to hold things when these last two roll into the site.
He's been a turret so far. I wouldn't put it past him to be able to pull this one off, or at least do some damage. If he gets the information, that's all you need, really. The others can play off the back of it. If he gets any more, that's even better. 38 seconds. Already Roman, though, out by Tetris, a little ahead of where maybe JKS is considering possible. But he's hearing these steps, which is keeping his eyes trained towards Palace. And there's the first smoke towards CT. JKS still unknown. Sponge watching the cross, misses the first shot, but comes back for the second. And now there you have it. JKS waited patiently and gets the job done. This is good performance from Renegades so far. 7-1, very respectable scoreline. And for the Fluffy Gangsters, we haven't really seen them get off to that electric start, that really kind of hard-hitting power. And Little's on 2-8, and he's had an AWP a couple of times. And to be fair, Renegades are outdoing them.
For the Fluffy Gangsters, I mean, they've had a couple of good theories, like that fake that they threw over towards the B-bomb site where the actual execution was coming into A. It actually worked really well, but the problem is they just ran the time down so low, and for whatever reason, the second player supporting the bomb planter wasn't watching back over towards CT approach, so it kind of got screwed over by JKS in the time right now. But beyond that, I think you mentioned this about a round or two ago too, it's just been extremely basic strats ever since then. So again, it's going to be another one just right out onto the A-bomb site here. Yam, though, missing his first connection shot, so he's going to be careful as they're moving up onto that Deagle, though, is not hitting whatsoever. Robo did find a first pick up there. Somehow Yam is still alive, and he's still fragging. Picks up another one with the op there to be able to take down Roman. There's a mid-air connection. Finally going to go down to Patriot, but then Azure peeks right back out from CT. Bomb is going to go down there, but it won't matter as the Renegades again have already got back control of this site.
Another one on the board for Renegades. This is looking good for them. Bear in mind, let's give this back to some context though. Renegades in their CT side hasn't been a huge problem. You look at Cobble, it was okay. It was the reason they made that game so close for themselves against Splice. However, their T sides have been atrocious recently. But with a buffer like this, it's hard to see a way for Fluffy Gangsters to really pull themselves back in unless they start now. This has to start now. They need to get off of one round. That's not good enough. They have everything they need here. They have the AWP with Little. They have a full buy behind them. And, well, Yam's got the AWP as well. And he's going for a little bit of a different approach here. They're almost leaving mid very open. They're giving that away, playing from the kind of connector from short and not, you know, giving too much credence to those initial battles. Almost maybe respecting Little a little here. As considering already Yam did outdo him once, you may not want to keep doing that over and over again. But he's going to be playing at B, freeing up the likes of JKS, Azza, Sponge, to focus on maybe watching those extremities a little more.
If we hark back to the game from yesterday on the Renegades, their CT side, I mean, just their general play seemed very disorganized, very discombobulated because of, I think as Vendetta mentioned, the mixed calling that was sort of going on there. They just couldn't figure out exactly what they wanted to do, but this looks way more coordinated today from the Renegades. Not really wasting a lot of assets. This was a problem yesterday too, where players would just roll out one by one and basically just give themselves away. This is not happening at all. Even when a member of the Renegades goes down first, they're almost always able to find a trade just a few seconds later. So with that being considered, this is leading to a much more solid CT side, and this is something that I believe will transition to the T side as well. So they're still looking very, very good at this point, and it's the Fluffy Gangsters who I think we're going to be good prospects coming into this match. Their star player, Little, is just not showing up right now, and it's hurting them big time here. Robo, though, is going to try to get the edge at the beginning of this run. He brings Sponge down pretty low, and he's going to be able to finish him off. A very, very patient waiting game. A bit surprising that Sponge wasn't able to get some extra support by that time, but nonetheless, the first kill will be going into the favor of the Gangsters.
Imagine a bit frustrating there for Sponge, as you said. No one able to trade off the back of it, even though they had two players playing towards mid, or at least kind of posturing towards it. But it looks like an A hit's going to be coming through. Still in towards Dark. JK's playing very passively by jungle, but it's Azza to find Patron. Now the 4 players left are going to make this A hit come to place, or at least try to, as Robo's already fallen down. Where's the rest of the Fluffy Gangsters? They're down to 8 seconds. They need to make this count. JKS catches out Chopper. The bomb is trying to be desperately planted in the sweaty palms, I can imagine, of Little then as the bullets do come raining in. But now bomb is planted. They're left in a 2v2. They still have Little with the AWP. They've got a good idea where these players are coming from, but will they expect both from CT?
Yeah, indeed, and not only this, but they've got it smoked off. As you can see, just trying to spray through the booth in hopes of finding someone to pick back up there, but it's not to be found. Finds some damage there. He knows where Roman is, but he just can't seem to hit the bullets. Finally, though, Yam gets the lock on, takes out Roman. Now Little, though, striking back, hiding behind the firebox now to wait and out this 1v1 for Azza to get closer, but he's going to miss that shot. Azza now going to get very up close, and keep in mind, Little is already down at 44 HP. One more shot to go, but Azza is going to get connection, but the problem is that Azza may not have enough time to defuse this bomb. It's going to be close, and he'll just be able to grab it. So the Renegades keep their streak going strong, and it's going to be 9-1 now.
Fluffy Gangsters, you'd argue that's the closest they've gotten so far, but a sterling retake from the Renegades in the end. You started to get nervous, though. You saw Little starting to look a little bit warmer, looking hot then in those shots. Didn't quite get the second one, sadly, for him, but 9-1, what a decisive scoreline we're seeing at the moment. Bit of an immaculate CT side so far from the Renegades, one blemish on the board so far, but Little losing out. Where is the Little of yesterday? Where was the guy that everyone wanted to see again? He is having a rough start to this, sadly, for him. And now again, Renegades with the advantage this time.
Fluffy Gangsters just called for a pause too, and that's happening like right at the beginning of the round. So this is not only needed for strategical reasoning, this is needed just to calm these players down. Like, we needed to see a little impacting, and right now, I mean, he's basically just hanging out with the rest of his teammates, which is not what we expect. So it's definitely hurting these guys big time. And I mean, going up against Yam, here's the thing: Yam, I think, was one of the few players in the Renegades that actually was performing pretty consistently yesterday versus Splyce, and one of the few reasons that scoreline was still close going up to the end. So coming into this match today, he's definitely improved that tenfold and is a huge portion, especially in the early round too, to hold back a lot of the initial pressure. He's been doing a great job at that and making sure these CT sides remain strong. But now, despite the fact they're down a man, Patron is going to be able to pick up that op from his fallen teammate. And they'll see what they can do in the 4-on-5, slowly creeping their way in to try and work in towards the B-bomb site. But they're also going to have to be careful of JKS, who's currently taking up a position in the apartments very, very aggressively too. And I don't think they're going to expect that. Chopper looks, and he actually does find the mark there. So now they found the opening into the site.
Even I'm frustrated with how that went down, but Chopper going to look to continue. Az is slowed him down a bit, but Sponge is already on the site, and Az is not done just yet. He's being able to single these guys out one by one. Chopper being left to stay alive. Still just about staying alive. 3 HP and 5 HP left in the 2v2. This is ridiculous. If they pull this off, this would be incredible. They're going to try and set up a crossfire. Ustillo and Yam on the retake now. Robo's going to be the one to take the first fight. Chopper's found Ustillo. They pulled it off on under 10 HP combined. They still make it count. And they finally get another round on the board.
A total of 8 HP between the two of them, and they pull off a 2 versus 2. Nicely played by the Fluffy Gangsters. And they go into a pause, but here's the weird thing now is, all right, we just won a round, so how do we actually need this pause? They're going to be using it, though, regardless, as it would seem. Still needing a few seconds, I believe, just to calm down a bit, try to get themselves back into this game.
And we're finally going to get to see the double AWP. I was wondering, this was actually going to be a question into the next round, is would Little step away from AWPing if he's having a bad time? Because we saw that actually, I think it was two players outside of him who could actually proficiently AWP, and we saw it on Dust 2 against Mouse a fair amount, one being, I think, Patron and one being Robbo as well. So those two players could probably step up to the plate, if I'm not mistaken, to kind of join into that. But the double AWP's now out, so it doesn't really matter. We'll be seeing that come through anyway. Renegade's money, not too perfect. Sponge could be working with a little less than they'd want to, but it's more than enough. But the Fluffy Gangsters, again, this timeout isn't a bad thing. Sure, they won the round. You could argue the momentum may go, but there were still some incredibly big issues with what they've been playing with. They have 2 rounds right now, and obviously against 9, that's not really good enough.
The problem, though, if you take Little off of the op, is that you have to hark back to that HLTV tweet that like showed his spread of actual kills, and he's a dead man without the op, essentially.
Yep.
Wasn't really picking. I think his second weapon was a pistol, wasn't even a rifle. So he's dead to rights without that in his hands. And despite another player maybe feeling a bit more confident with him right now, he's still not going to be better off because he'll essentially be useless without that in his hands. So you're going to have to keep him with it. But we are back into the game now, so we'll be jumping into the game camera in just a moment. The double op setup is alive and well for the T side on both Robo and Little.
Just going for straight up A hit, and they're playing ahead of the smokes. They have smokes, and I'm not sure if that choice was completely spot on there. Patron's going to get completely caught with his pants down, and now Ustillo's able to do some more damage, but there finally Robo's going to find Sponge. That's the impact we were looking for with his ult. Chopper's been let loose towards jungle, but Yam waited patiently. Now left into this 3v3. We've got a flank coming in from Azza. Don't ride that out yet. Little hasn't considered it, but the bomb now planted. Time is in the T side.
Yeah, trying to find that player that was planting the bomb, but he is long gone now. Keep in mind, though, this flank from Azza, this is going to be a big one that he was lurking towards. And not only this, but JKS came in early too. However, Roman, he expects that nice intuition coming out from him. Goes for the check and almost perfect timing and takes down Azza. Takes a bit of damage from it, but now they're a man up in this one. Not only this, but Yam goes for a bit of a blind peek there and is just shut down by Robo, who's now safely perched up in the Palace way. So for JKS, no way he's going to be pulling this off, especially without any utility. So time to fall back and save the rifle. It'll be a 3rd round now, and Fluffy actually chaining some together. This is the 2nd one in a row.
This is much better. The slight hits look far more formidable. They're not going in one by one. They're just making sure these hits actually count. The flank look a little dangerous, but then again, Roman just bounded down through a ramp, which is maybe not, normal to see people just like hopping down and hitting shots, but then again, CSGO in the last couple of days has been giving us some weird things to watch. But yeah, money is pretty much broken for Renegades now. Under 2k for a lot of the players. JKS can just still sit on the M4. This should, in theory, be a round pretty much one and done by Fluffy Gangsters unless something goes terribly wrong here.
The Renegades trying something a bit more interesting. with their aggressive positioning on the A site. Doesn't look like they're actually going to push past anything just yet, but Sponge, along with JKS, now getting ready to move down that T ramp. Everyone is gone, though. It's going to be good intel. The problem is now the Fluffy Gangsters are already going for the execute. Yam, though, nobody's actually spotted him here, and there goes the Deagle, the bomb down as well up on the platform here. Thankfully, though, a quick trade does come out, and not only this, but Chopper finding a second pickup on Azure does clear out the site and allows them good control.
Sponge on the flank, getting met by Robbo. Easily done for him, no real threat there coming out, and JKS again might just back away from this. There's no point going in on it. It's a full 4 players left standing towards B-bomb planted. Not much to worry. You still could try and maybe catch out Chopper if he tries to play his way through Kitchen, but again, this one was never going to go too well. Doing any damage at this point is pretty much a bonus, but there we go. I think we'll be seeing a 9-4 scoreline. Fluffy Gangsters not going down without a fight, which is what I wanted to see. I want to see Renegades pushed and actually having to play a bigger game, so no one can say, well, actually, Fluffy Gangsters just played bad. I want to see that Renegades played well. That's what I'm looking at. I think if Fluffy Gangsters give themselves enough of a margin, Renegades tend to just shoot themselves in the foot on their T side, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see something a little bit closer at the end of this game. But buy time now going out for the Renegades. They're able to get back on a buy, and I'm wondering, are we going to see a double AWP again, or are we back on the rifle for Robo?
I feel like we'd be back. Decision needs to be made, but I believe this would be going back to the rifle at this point. Buying up the AWP would be incredibly risky and would bring him down to essentially nothing left. So, yeah, they're going to be able to give him the AK. Sticking with that for now, which I think is a smarter choice in the long run of things here, just for the last 2 rounds. I want to make sure that in the event you just get destroyed by the CTs here, you're still going to have enough cash left over to go into that final round with a full buy. So you still
Why is this play from the CT side?
Yeah, he's perched up there, but in the meantime, Azure and Yam have pushed in and, in fact, just shut down the offensive entirely close to the B-bomb site. They were trying to line up something a little bit closer to A, especially considering they left the bomb in T-spawn, but now it's going to be obvious as hell as the Renegades have cleared out every single angle approaching the B site.
That's brilliant. That's the teamwork and the team play and the sort of kind of approach to the game I wanted to see from Renegades. They're a team that should be able to have this sort of, I guess, unique characteristic, but now Fluffy Gangsters do have that, well, not complete control. Complete control is wrong, but they have a good step towards the A site. Robo's got himself in a very interesting position. Kind of Little needs to be careful there. And, oh, wow, Robo's been able to achieve absolutely nothing, and Renegade's coming back in with force here, pushing Little away on 1 HP. Renegades didn't even seem like they had to work for that. I thought Robo could have achieved so much more from that spot.
Unfortunately not, and Little with still only 1 HP and still 45 seconds left on the timer to save. Might be better for him to just go in and try to hunt some frags down. I think that's what he's doing now, but flank from Azure comes in pretty swiftly and will allow him to shut down Little, giving the round control right back to the Renegades, but thanks to the fact they did not invest into that secondary up, now Robo still has enough cash in order to go for a full AK buy here in the last round.
10-4. I'm hoping we get 10-5, so we get to see a nice half coming in on the second. As close as possible. Good utility for the T side. Not that big aggression again. We've got ramp aggression. Look at this. Renegade's just taking it up a notch. They're going straight in on the fight. They've gone right into the sides of Chopper. He was waiting ever so patiently down by a ramp, and already an advantage for the T side to work with.
So Chopper pushing back in there now. Actually going to go moving in himself, just to make sure nobody else has taken up position from the CT side, waiting for a push to come into this bomb site, but it's not the case. Still and Azure have fallen back. He still is going to be waiting out inside of the sandwich with Azure up on the platform there. And the rest of the Fluffy Gangsters falling back from their mid and hall positions to now line up for a push into the site. Going to be very, very direct. All 5 players pushing in. Robo, the only one moving in from Palace there. He's going to need the point man, though, as he clears out those pressure points that actually allow them full access to the site here. Azure tossing the molly to prevent them from getting good control there, but I don't think it bounced as well as he would have. However, it does still fully cover Tetris there, and now as he peeks out, he drops the bomb, too. Roman does manage to find a kill onto Ustila there, but beyond that, it is a shutdown in the favor of the Renegades. Azure, 2 more kills on his own. He's up to 3 in this round, and that combined with Ustila's pickup leaves Chopper as the last man standing out in mid.
Azure performing extremely well, even while inundated with those T players pouring through ramp. Chopper timing just being a bit off here. He could have a chance, but I can imagine Yam will be checking this on occasion between that and Palace. And he is doing just that. Chopper will probably have the first shot, though. 30 seconds. He's going to do some big work here. That's a good start. Finding Yam now 1v2. Just has to get past Azure and JKS.
24 seconds now. That time dilutes very, very quickly. And now Chopper has to pull all of this off. If he can take down JKS, he may be able to find the plant, but that molly's been wasted now, going over towards Firebox, moving in to take back quick control, but that flashbang coming out from the teammate, along with the final shot from JKS, is going to be played perfectly. And with that, the Renegades will hold a very safe lead, 11-4, coming off of their CT half.
And guys, we'll be back after a very short break, so do stay tuned. 11-4 being the halftime score. Renegades with a rather astounding lead so far, considering what we expected coming into this. But there is still another half to go, and it is the infamous T side for the Renegades. And let's remember, Fluffy Gangsters certainly have shown some power so far, but sadly only managed to get 4 rounds. But we're underway, so why don't you take us into this?
And indeed, Robo immediately going to be under pressure as the Renegades flood out onto the A-bomb site. Ustilo with the first pickup, but Little is able to hold himself in the jungle there, taking down Azur directly after that one. Roman can't even hold back by Ticket Booth, and that's a nice shot from Ustilo. Just jumps right in there, taking down Roman with JKS's follow-up kill and Ustilo's next frag. At least Patron as the last one alive, but not for very long. The Renegades, nicely done, very clean, and Ustilo recovering from his falter, we'll call it, from the first pistol round. He does find a 3K here, and it keeps their lead going 12-4 into the second half.
Sterling pistol round for Renegades there, as you said, making up Ustilo's little, let's say, fumble earlier, but Fluffy Gangsters could have done with that, actually. Looking at their score at the moment, they really could have done with maybe those pistol rounds to build off the back, and a full SMG buy-up. Not a single rifle in sight. Relatively unique, unless maybe your Envy do like the 1 rifle and 4 Mac 10s. But yeah, this is going to be a lot of bullets very quickly.
A bit disputed as well, or sort of a half buy from the Fluffy Gangsters. Not the full force, but there are 2 players that have gone for the investment. Robo and Chopper buy up their $500 pistols and armor behind it, but Roman, Patron, and Little invest nothing.
All right, so a slow, cautious start with a P90. That just doesn't work in my brain. And he's holding at range at mid, but it is going to be a B play eventually coming in, and it's gone about as well as you'd, I guess, hope at this point. No one likes SMGs. Yam dies, Chopper gets it with the CZ. I don't know what's better here, but now the 3 players need to make a move. They need to get towards the site. There's going to be Patron waiting ever so patiently. The Sponge does make it out through the window, going to find Chopper, looks for a follow-up. You can see the bit of a mad dash coming out from Patron there, just trying to dance around the pillars, but eventually he will be caught. But Little does damage as well towards Azur. This is actually a pretty costly round so far, and now it's getting even worse. Robo's found Sponge. Okay, Ustilo just about using all of those bullets then available. And by a whisker, they just hold on to that.
Thankfully, it's all SMGs for the Renegades, so no huge losses coming in. But that's still going to be 3 revives, which is not too shabby for the Fluffy Gangsters, especially considering that wasn't a full force-up. That was like a disputed one, which means going into this 3rd round, look at the buy now.
Buy.
And this is where it gets weird now because of the fact that we did see those 2 forcing up, which means it might have been a late decision after Robo and Chopper had already purchased up. So now you got 3 rifles and 2 upgraded pistols on the board for the Fluffy Gangsters. They're going to try to throw a curveball at the Renegades, and initially at least it's going to work as Ustilo just rolls right out into the site, and he takes punishment down to 1 HP now.
What are these buys? Henry, we go mad just seeing this sort of thing. It's just very peculiar, but it's going to reset things for Renegades. Now they know what they're coming up against to some degree. Whether or not they assume there's more rifles or not, they know that there was investment into the last round to some small amount, so you can imagine that not everyone has full weaponry for the Fluffy Gangsters, but it's going to be tough to read into. Have everyone to get tagged up, I guess you'd want one of the SMG players to kind of bear the force of it, if anything, but he still is barely standing, 1 HP and a lot of utility. He needs to find a way to use this, so he's going to do the smoke towards stairs. Looks like somewhat of a default A. Yam going to play the catch-up, just pick up the rotates if possible. And smokes go out. No one instantly working off the back of this. They need to be careful. Roman does have one of the bigger weapons here. Robo baiting on the side. He's just going to be playing by the boxes, playing fullback. Waiting to see if anyone pushes through. He does have the 5.7, so still pretty darn useful. And now it looks like the Renegades are going to head out very, very cautiously.
Keep in mind that late addition with Yam, too, probably entering after the initial take starts. You can see him posturing up near underpass, but now they're moving into this site. Roman trying to hold there, actually taking one down. Robo finding a second, but it's striking back. After the even trades, though, down to just a 2v2, but one of the players alive for the Fluffy Gangsters is one of the ones that did have just an upgraded pistol. However, peeking back out, there's one pickup, and the second from Chopper! He just shuts it down all as loadsome. Yam and JKS go down to him. And with that, the 3rd round force-up is going to work for the CTs in such a strange buy.
Yeah, Chopper just ravishing them with the CZ. I'm pretty sure, was it Chopper before as well that we saw doing some really, really good CZ work? I may be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it was him. I'm kind of curious. I think it was possibly on Train. I'll have to look back at that one because this guy's showing some actually really sick play on it. And now the buy kind of seems, I guess, appropriate for Fluffy Gangsters. And you've got Renegades going right back to it as well. 2 players onto pistols, 3 with rifles. This is a very, very forced up game. Very much no either team wanting to back down from it. And you can kind of understand from the Fluffy Gangsters with merely 5 rounds, they need to be into every round almost here. They need to be very much on point. But for the Renegades, they've got a couple to play with, so hopefully they don't fizzle out too early. And again, it looks like a possible A hit going to be put into play soon. 2 players through the Palace area. Roman going to be on to receive with Robo. The first flash goes out. Roman gets caught, so he's not able to really respond just yet to this.
It does sneak himself underneath there. Not only this, too, but that Molly's going to hold off the extra support coming in from the guys on the Renegades there. But nonetheless, they are striking back after Roman finds that first kill. And oh, for Robo, nicely picked up there by JKS. He actually spots you ahead, I believe, just over top of the stairways, and then he's able to rotate back around to eliminate him. Chopper trying to sneak his way back in through connector. He does find one more pickup here, but he's kind of trapped at the moment. And when he tries to go back out to mid, you see he's going to punish that, which means Renegades right back on the winning train now, 2 away from taking control of this map.
But you know what, there's a couple of options I see here for Renegades. Because, you know, when you watch Renegades, it goes a certain way. You've got to feel they're going to win this. Maybe do okay in the next couple, and then they'll lose. You know what I mean? Like, they give you hope again, and then they take away. Or they choke on this round, somehow. we hope it doesn't happen, but you never know at this point with Renegades. It's a bit of a team to watch at times. But on the other side of the thing, Fluffy Gangsters have very, very minimal amounts to work with here. Just going to have to forego this round. They had nothing to work with, so just going to hope for maybe cling on for overtime, but it's a long road back. So Robbo, Roman, Little going to be waiting for this A play to come in again. And here comes the surge from the T side. Sponge going to lead the fray there, going to make his way towards Tetris, but he just about turns around in time. Look at the damage. 3 kills back to back there. That's actually fantastic stuff from Fluffy Gangsters, but I don't know if they can get the close on this. Still going to be pretty tough. And again, they're not too sure where these players from Fluffy Gangsters are currently waiting. Sponge getting a little bit paranoid about the push around the back, and JKS needs to be careful. There's still that Deagle up for Patron that can do a lot of work even at this sort of distance. Oh, and he's found a rifle too.
Sponge did a good job of holding that together though, but now with Patron having the rifle in hand, moving up there, trying to knock these guys out. It's Sponge again though that strikes. Moving his way back through the T-ramp, taking down Chopper, and it's all in the hands of Patron now. Finds that first shot. Somehow that connects on the Sponge, and now there's just one left. JKS is also stuck inside of that spray. Almost completely takes down JKS. Now he's got to get it onto the site just to change his position, but Patron, look at this angle lineup he has. He can turn X-ray off as well. You could maybe be able to see that. So JKS just trying to safety smoke these things off at this point. Look at how much coverage he's giving himself, but he still does not feel secure right now. As he creeps back up, the staircase smoke is going to fade away. He's waiting for the peek up on top, but I don't think he's going to be obliged with it right now. Patron still trying to flank over towards the right side, and JKS is just waiting for it, but now he's out in the open, but JKS finds him first, takes out Patron, and there's another round up on the board for the Renegades.
Exquisite play from JKS in the end then. A brave move to go for a shot like that, but you've got to feel that Fluffy Gangsters put everything into that round. Even though they had so little to work with, they still played their absolute heart out. But now they're staring down the barrel of the gun. 15-5, and this, bearing in mind, is one of the elimination matches. This is going to be all she wrote for one of these teams, and it looks like Renegades staring at going to the face after the first couple of attempts have finally decided they want to play some CS here. But it's still not over yet. Fluffy Gangsters have one more shot at holding them back.
So now here, with the full buy coming in for the Fluffy Gangsters, they are going to be able to hold them off initially, but the problem is they've already used any smokes that would have been bought up here in this round. They only have 3 flashbangs, and just that now, as an HE was just used as well, to 0 potency against anybody on the Renegades. So they have the advantage in almost every single regard. Not only this, but Robo and Patron were the only 2 players that were able to pick up M4s. Roman and Little had to downgrade, and Chopper's not even working with a rifle, he's just working with the SMG at this point. So moving back out there, he's still trying to investigate, making sure there's no aggressive movements up on the catwalk there. And as we're starting to push out for some mid-control here too, but the Fluffy Gangsters, quiet as a mouse right now, not making any noise whatsoever. They're holding back in their positions, and they're just going to try to take these 1v1s outright.
Renegades taking their time on this too. They've been given a fair bit of control in mid. 3 players playing toward A for Fluffy Gangsters. You've got Little, Robo, and Roman again. Going to be met with some aggression now. Azra and Estillo just going to be walking right through. Little just turns around in time, and he saves what could have been the day there. Taking down 2 is going to really limit this attack, but JKS is making up for it. 2 back-to-back. What on earth is going on, FLG? You had a chance in this round, but you might have just let it slip. Down to a 2v2, though. It's down to Chopper and Patron, and they need this more than anything. And that UMP finally comes up with the goods in the hands of Chopper, but there goes the bomb. Yam now 1v2. Will he be the man to close it out for the Renegades?
I think Roman had the triple tap on his FAMAS there for a second, but anyway, Yam trying to hold this off now alone. He is going to be sprayed through. And that peak, unfortunately, does not work out very well for him. Patron's going to be able to take him down, and the Fluffy Gangsters definitely down, but not out as of yet, as they now have to try and strike back. They were 10 rounds in a row needed to be able to try and take us an OT. 9 to go now as they've started themselves on the path.
Yeah, what a road they're going to have to walk here. Azra and JKS having the big performances so far for the Renegades. On the other side is Chopper, actually, and Patronus was having some big impact in their previous matches, but maybe just not being able to find it today, not quite being on par with the others at the moment. And Little, very average game for him. Again, the money's not exactly allowed him on the CT side to get much of an ult behind him. And look at this buyback in from the Renegades. Straight up Tech 9s, a lot of utility. And one rifle with JKS. This is going to be fast, this is going to be heavy, and this is going to be a big hit towards one of these sites. It looks so far like that pressure towards Shaw is going to come together, but no, Little trades out 1-for-1. Robo's found a bit of a connection through Connector. And look at Patron, terrified as to where the next bit of he's going to come down towards. He's going to take the fight as well. What is he doing? And he makes it work. He takes out JKS. It's down to 2 for the Renegades. And Patron, I called him out and he's made up for it. And now your last man alive is Jam in a 1v4, and he is locked out of this.
A bit unfortunate for Sponge, he's even in the cheeky position up on top of the ladder where physics makes no sense, and he still gets knocked out there. So very well played from Patron, despite that looking very iffy when he's jumping around the corner while still swapping weapons. Yam now down to a 1v4. Very little hopes of pulling anything off in this regard, but the Fluffy Gangsters keeping them on edge there, as you can see from the platform. It pays off, and they are able to hold the line against the Renegades trying to push themselves into that site. Yam, though, we'll see how much damage he is able to do at the end of this round. Still has 50 seconds to play with before it concludes. But creeping back up now, it does look like he's going to go in to find the challenge against Patron. So at the very least, he could try to retrieve the bomb. And he's being very safe about this, using a lot of his utility. But as soon as he rounds that corner, Chopper is ready for him. He's going to take him down.
Considering the Fluffy Gangsters' money then was not the worst in the world, but it would have been a bit of a stretch of a buyback in if maybe Yam had caused a little more damage, cost a couple of people more lives. That could have been pretty useful, but not going to be the case here. And the Fluffy Gangsters, as said, will live to fight another day. 15-7 now, the scoreline looking a little more respectable, starting to look less like a bit of a thrashing, more like a bit of a competitive match. And, of course, Renegades having to respect that. They're not able to buy back into this one. We've got a couple of deagles here and there, P250 and 2 flashes. Usually we're seeing Sponge doing the flash over to allow them to play through Palace just to play for the bomb plant. Now, Fluffy Gangsters may not let them get away with this. This was the play that we saw before, and I wonder if we're going to see it again.
Patron moving his way back over here onto the catwalk is going to be very crucial too, with Hauser now trying to sneak in, but he needs to peek this right now because Little might be caught off guard. Thankfully he's not, though. He's able to spot the play coming in through the connector. Takes him down. Not taking a whole lot of damage from that either. In fact, still at full HP, and this play from the Renegades not going anywhere at all. Look at it. Just an absolute shutdown. No plant. I don't even think they really get any damage. They bring Robo down to 55, but that is it. And the Fluffy Gangsters pull off a nice hold while Renegades try to force the issue on the site.
Very nice hold. Now you can see maybe their utility not quite as fleshed out as they'd like, not have as many smokes, as many flashes, as even mollies will be missing from the T side. Not going to be able to put that one to place yet, but on this side, Little on the AWP now. CT side maybe is where he's going to find some footing, and Renegades known for struggling on their T sides. Although they're on 15, this should be over and done with soon for them, but Fluffy Gangsters, if they start feeling this, there could be danger ahead, but we're going to have to wait and find out if that's the case, as really Little goes hunting towards those B apartments, and Yam might be the unwilling victim towards this if he walks any further. As a Sponge and Ustilo in the meantime, though, applying pressure towards mid, and no one fighting back from the Fluffy Gangsters.
So for now here, spread across the map, if you look at it, in all honesty, it's a jumble of players all over the place right now, but it's the Renegades that try to get control of mid. Still leaving the bomb in T-spawn, interestingly enough, so somebody is going to have to fall back from this push and grab it. That or JKS is going to have to roll back around there, which means if they do take control of the site, it's actually going to be a couple extra seconds before they can secure that plant. And we've seen that lead issues in the past. Now that they move inside of Dark Room for their first target, Patron falls back though and is able to hold, but he doesn't spot Ustilo, leaping his way forward up the ladderway, and it takes him down, but then Chopper is able to take down Azure. Now Ustilo trying to make up for that, not going to be able to do so just as of yet. And with 3 Ts left, they try to push themselves into the B site here. However, I think the Fluffy Gangsters have the read on it and are going to try to box them in.
Little has to be the hero that we've seen before. He needs to be able to hold back these two players. It's JKS and Yam going to make their way through. That is the first strike against the Renegades. FLG doing just enough to hold into this one, but it is a 2v3. It's still very possible for the Renegades. But Robert with the drop completely whiffs it. Ustilo keeps this one alive. And now down to a 2v2. We need to get back into game because Roman is about to try and take on a fight there with Ustilo. And this is very much still in the hands of Fluffy Gangsters now.
Yam, the last one left alive with 17 seconds left on the clock. Smoking off the window very quickly, still in control of the bomb, but now moving in to take over the A site. It's actually fairly open right now. If he plants it in the direction of Connector, he actually should be safe to get it on the floor, and that's exactly what he's going to be doing. The problem, though, is going to be post-planted, trying to get himself out of here. Roman rolling back in there. Ram is given enough time to try and recover, but he's not going to be able to find the shot quickly enough. So Roman closes things out, and the Fluffy Gangsters are still rolling back into this match now. 6 more rounds to go, I believe, and we will be in overtime.
Roman took a real risk taking that fight as well, because his teammate then wasn't that close by. you know, in theory, you could have traded off the back of it, but him taking that early fight was actually pretty dangerous. But 15-9, as said, we've got a tactical pause as well coming out for the Renegades. They don't want to throw this away because this is a problem. And let's see who's actually calling in this one.
Look at that.
It looks like Sponge. So again, this was something that we said we were actually going to be looking towards who's actually calling for them here, because before we saw it going towards the coach, they had to take it over because, well, I think Sponge pretty much just said, well, I'm not calling, done. So yeah, this is something we need to keep our eyes on, because this is where the pressure mounts on the T side, because it's having to listen to the in-game leader so much more. It's so much more, I guess, reactive, and so much more kind of creating these plays as well. So this is testing point now.
You could, I mean, when we saw that first shot there, you can sort of look at the demeanor on Sponge. You can sort of tell that the pressure is really getting them. They're still good. They're still in the lead here. It's all about that one last round. And while I'm not going to reference it here, there have been issues with teams finding that one last round in the past. In theory, in most situations, this should still be an easy closeout. So no reason to worry about that just as of yet. Just need a few seconds here to recenter themselves and find that one strat that's needed to breach into the site and get control to find that pickup there and thusly move onwards into the next round for themselves.
Sometimes though, that last round really is the hardest. I know there's a couple of NA teams that can certainly attest to that one. And sadly for Renegades, I'm hoping it's not the case for them, but this is when things start to crumble, when things start to like fall down, when things start to get a little bit pressured, when people aren't doing maybe as well as you'd hope, when people start causing issues with each other. But the one thing I'd like to see actually from the Renegades is their A-take. One of their A-takes that they have in their bag is a bit of a differently defined smoke wall that kind of goes, I guess, across A, rather than, you know, the default, like, you know, the stairs, the jungle, and the CT smoke. I want to see the one that cuts it in half so they can take those Tech-9 fights, and we are back in game. We're going to find out if that's the case, if we're actually going to be able to see that. I'd really like to. But you've got to be careful. Little is keeping eyes on this, and he's close by with that AWP this time, so this could be a little different, but it looks like, I don't know if it is the default one, it looks a touch different to what I'm used to.
So now the 4 members of the Renegades line up outside. It's going to be pretty direct as far as I'm concerned now as they try to line this one back up. Ready to throw in the smokes and one up. They're going to be waiting, of course, for the initial ones. The CTs have tossed out to Fade, which have been done right now. So in they go. The lineup coming out into the A-bomb site. Smoke starting to blow now, and actually very, very good coverage here. They are not going to be able to see anything. They have a lot of open ground to work with here, but at the same time, look at how much ground Azur is trying to get for himself here. He's pushed all the way up and is now going to hide in the corner. I don't think anybody from the Fluffy Gangsters is going to be suspecting him to be hiding out in that location, which could be a huge linchpin now when they actually go for the retake. Sponge, too, on the other side of the staircase. The Fluffy Gangsters need to be very careful moving in. Sponge, I think, is a bit more obvious. They'll find him first, but now the real question around the corner is, do they see Azur?
Yeah, he's going to be a bit of a deadly coiled snake at this point, and there you go. He strikes finally, finds Patron, but trades out in the end for Robo. And now 2v4, bomb planted. The flank comes out towards mid. They're going all the way around, and Yam gets Robo. It's down to 3 now for the CT side. Oh, Yam finds one more, and again! But they can't get the diffuser in the end. Yam was hitting some crazy shots, but not quite the one they needed to secure that, but they get back on a good buy here. But that was the play I wanted to see from Renegades, and you can see how effective it can be. The difference, I guess, one player can make in that in the end, but yeah. Wow, that was pretty darn close. 15-10.
Few inches to the left there, bud. You would have had it. You would have won that round if you take down the diffuser. Kills everybody but the bomb diffuser. Unfortunately, and with that, the Fluffy Gangsters do get to continue rolling here. Little looking for the first shot. He's out in the open a bit, but he doesn't care. Finds the first mark, but Yustillo does trade it back, taking him down. And now the Renegades could try to get more progressive control of mid here. However, Fluffy Gangsters do seem to want to try and hold it here. Robo having to hold back a little bit with this smoke in play. And Aaron's not going to be able to see anything, unfortunately. Those 2 combined smokes don't let him see anything back over towards the catwalk.
So Renegades going back to what, I wouldn't say the default hit, but just kind of going back towards their A hit here. Once they were having to operate at a disadvantage, Az is going to be trying to put out the bait towards B, but I'm not sure if anyone's really paying any dividends towards that at the moment. So we'll actually keep Chopper and Patron there. So I guess that's a bit of silver lining. It's going to keep them split up. It's a 2-2 to each side. Robo a little bit more focused towards Connector, which is going to possibly catch out Azur, and he does. That's going to give away the game here. Now the smokes are coming in. Fluffy Gangsters know exactly what's coming their way.
Still only 2 on the site, though. The other 2 have to rotate back in. But look at this. They're all blind, and they're not trying to hide themselves. Robo gets a free peek, takes down Yustillo, but Sponge does win the next 1v1, taking out Roman from the play. Now Robo moving back in again. There's nobody watching the top of that staircase, but this time the aim is not as true as it was before. Patron finding another one. JKS tries to leap in. He finds one more kill, but he does eventually get taken down by Patron. And Fluffy Gangsters find another one now here, starting to establish a really good economy for themselves, which is going to be great, because oftentimes, I think you mentioned this a couple rounds back, it does run dry eventually, and you're working with these really sketchy buys to stay in the game. But this is also going to be another full investment from the Renegades, including an op on Yam, and full utility behind it as well.
And even just going back to that round, credit to Roman for that fantastic flash towards ramp. It held back those 3 players from Renegades and allowed the rotate to come in. But into this one, 15-11, as you said, this is a full investment from Renegades, though. They have everything in theory they'd need. Little is the man playing in towards window. He's got Ustilo up there. Ustilo has been generally splitting this as well. He likes to play the top of mid, catch those rotates, apply pressure, but here comes that B play. Chopper flashed up, Patron not so much so. He's still able to operate. There we go. As it takes down Chopper, it's down to 4 for the CT side. Response comes back in blisteringly fast from Little, but Azure outdoes him. It's down to a 4v3. Finally, the T side have the upper hand.
Now, Robo finding another pickup here for the CT side, being able to take down Ustilo. 3-on-3 for now. The Fluffy Gangsters are holding back. Flashbang as well, so that's going to cause some panic to the players that are over there towards the platform. Trone on catwalk there falls back for a moment, but pushing back in, finds another shot of the Azure. A great one too, but JKS is not done fighting as of yet. Peeking back out from the market, but now down to 1 HP. He's hit through the panel there. Sponge needs to get a bit more aggressive here, and in fact he's going to do so. Peeks out to the left, takes down Robo, all in the hands of Patron now to keep this game together. Using the pistol, finds the first shot, but he's low on time now. He's going to find this last kill against JKS. He doesn't realize how far out it is. I don't even think he has enough time for the defuse anymore. This is going to be it. JKS just playing with him, and he finds that last kill with 1 HP. The Renegades keep themselves in this event 16-11, and unfortunately for the Fluffy Gangsters, they're going to be our first team going home.
An admirable performance from the Fluffy Gangsters, though. They certainly put up a good fight, and I think that's the first time I've seen almost a smile on the Renegades' face in a long time. That was a good performance to begin with. Their T-half, though, still a lot of questions around that, considering it was 11-4 during that game. You know, this was a very one-sided match at one point, and it came back to be an increasingly competitive matchup. But in the end, it was won out by the Renegades. And there's no way you can really dispute that. They certainly deserved it in the end. They did grind out those, well, that first half was impeccable from them. That's something you want to look at. That's the Renegades that people wanted to see. Then sadly, the T-side sometimes gets a little lackluster.
Certainly not a tournament, though, the Fluffy Gangsters should be immediately forgotten for. Definitely bringing some strong strides here. Little, definitely a player to look at in the future as well, though he did not bring that all-star performance here today that we saw in the past 2 days. Still, a very impressive tournament for him. Very impressive tournament for the Fluffy Gangsters, bringing as much of a fight, considering that everybody thought they were going to be going out really, really quick here. Although they do go out in the first round, definitely not as easily as some had hoped. And of course, giving credit where credit is definitely due, Sponge having another fairly good game where he struggled greatly yesterday to bring that impact, and in general has been struggling quite a bit to bring his own sort of impact. Is constantly working on bouncing back. And from the matches on day 1 and day 3, he seems to be accomplishing that goal quite well.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, Fluffy Gangsters definitely didn't have an easy run of things. Having to take on the likes of Mouse, Optic, and now Renegades, they had to fight their way into that one. Sadly, won't be seeing any more of them, but quite an impression they've left. But it's not... Oh, wow. Wow, the memes are out already. All right, let's head down to the stage there to hear from Mitch and the interview.
Thank you very much, Lauren. And I am here with PK, of course, coach of Renegades. I was worried I wouldn't get another chance to chat to him, but here we are. You played Russian roulette. Again, you won this time. That's definitely a good sign for you guys as you keep afloat here. I don't want to pick out the bad things. We often, when we talk about you guys at this tournament, you've had some struggles. We've talked about some of the negatives, but I do want to talk about your CT side. It was really solid, really polished. Tell us more about how you put that together.
I think the team as a whole was a lot more aggressive today on the CT side. We were willing to take those duels. We backed our own skills against these guys. Certainly they've had a great competition so far, but we certainly thought that we could match it with them individually, and I think the aggression caught them off guard and really set us up well to finish it off in the second half.
I mean, absolutely. We saw a lot more aggression from Sponge as well. Successful pushes into T-ramp off of that A side as well, getting kills and slowing the Fluffy Gangsters down. The T side, though, for you guys, a little bit rockier. Tell us about some of your sticking points there as well. Where were your stumbling blocks?
To be honest, I think that we were quite happy with the T side in the end. I mean, we got over the line. That's certainly something we haven't done the last 2 days. So 16 rounds is definitely a big plus for us. But winning the T pistol there, I think we were comfortable the whole time, even though they put together, I think, 4 or 5 rounds in the end in a row to make the scoreline a little bit closer. We certainly were quite comfortable in our chairs. We just had a tactical pause after 4 or 5 round losses just to really take a deep breath. Nothing much was said other than keep doing what we're doing, and eventually we'll get over that hump, and we did just that.
Absolutely, you did. I do want to touch on one more thing as well. Obviously, you have come in now as a coach as well. We talked about over the last couple of days as well, what the communication's looking like as well with Renegades as well, because there was obviously Chad starting off as the caller, Sponge, of course, and then yesterday as well, we did see you get a little bit more involved in that yourself. Can you tell us what the thought process has been with you guys between these switch-ups?
Yeah, to be honest, it hasn't been anything too deliberate. Certainly, our mentality has been all along that Chad is the in-game leader. That's his role in the team, and certainly he's very capable of doing just that, as you've seen today. It was just yesterday, there were some rounds here and there where I added some extra things to the team just because had some extra insight about Splice. Obviously it didn't work out well in that instance, but I think our roles in the team are still very well defined, with Chad being the in-game leader and myself just there to help with some mid-round decisions and to make sure that the communication across the board is on point, and that won't change.
Fantastic. Well, they're lucky to have you, PK. Thank you very much for joining us here on the stage, and good luck to the rest of you guys as well as they fight to stay in this tournament. That chance at the Major is still on the table for the Renegades now as they move forward, and sadly, we do say goodbye to the fluffy Gangsters who've given us some great CS over the course of these last few days. Alex and the desk, break this one down a little bit more for us.
Far too many Australians on the stage at once there. That was intense. Thanks very much, Mitch. Getting some good words from PK, their new actual coach, new face for the Renegades. And gentlemen, we have to kind of hold our hands up and say that we doubted Renegades, and I do feel like it was justified at the time. Renegades do seem to be able to flex and show us what they're capable of, though. Or, my question to you, was that just fluffy Gangsters not being the fluffy of yesterday?
Bit of both, really, in my eyes. I think the CT side, as PK kind of pointed out, was very good.
Yeah.
Just having that constant mid-aggression, I think they pretty much for the, well, probably 10 CT rounds, they were deliberately contesting that middle control and taking it away, or at least making it very hard for Fluffy Gangsters to have any sort of room to work with for the better part of it. And that, in turn, made the job of Little a lot harder. We pretty much didn't see him have an impact at all on that T side. So, and if you can do that to Fluffy Gangsters, you see kind of what a result you get out of it. So great job from Renegades on that part. And I also want to give them a lot of credit for how they played whenever their initial aggression didn't work out. So when they went down a man and actually gave up mid-control, they were playing so passively that Fluffy actually didn't know really what to do with it because they couldn't find any picks.
Was there a particular name that stood out to you, Vince, as, you know, the linchpin of that aggressive CT side?
Azza.
Yeah.
Straight up. He played fantastic. He deserves a lot of the plaudits. He's had a couple of quieter maps, I think it's safe to say, earlier in the tournament, but he really shone for me. He was playing around Shadow, the closer angles, over on A on the CT side. He did a really great job. I think one point it was like 20 for 9, 20 for 10. It just goes to show how well he was playing.
Now, is it time to start maybe using Azza's name as the you must have question? You know, like, you know how we say Oscar has to turn up for Hellraisers, Nico for Mouse. Is it time that JKS and Azza are in that same boat for Renegades? Because that team, that competent team we just saw turn up here in Katowice, did involve Azza and JKS delivering on all fronts.
Yeah, I think any team really has that to a certain degree, where you need to have your assumed better players or your assumed best players to actually play when it matters the most, to play well. And Azza definitely did that in this game, to the point where JKS didn't really have to do much until the second half started, because throughout that CT side, a lot of the work was done by Azza.
Yeah, and now we have to just quickly kind of turn to a point of reflection for Fluffy Gangsters. I know the casters did it just a little bit, but with every team getting eliminated, we want to just take a quick moment to reflect on what we did learn from them, what we've seen from them, and what we expect to see from them in the future. I'll start with you, Vince. This CIS team, I would like to think, are not going to be forgotten in a heartbeat.
No, I really hope not. I think they've had some really solid performances. Obviously, again, going back to the fact Little was their standout player, but again, Robo I highlighted, he had some big plays. El Patron had a couple of questionable plays on short. It tilted you quite a lot, Alex.
Well, Andrew Steeler, can we talk about that USP?
Oh, man.
Oh,
by the way,
God.
that kind of sent dark premonitions all around in the green room when we saw that, so
you should have heard
about to start it.
You should have seen Mitch.
Yeah.
He just started shouting his first name at the screen, going, "What are you doing, mate? What are you doing?" That's my awful Australian accent done. Sorry about that. Anyway, that's one elimination match of 2 done and dusted, and our first team of our 16 is gone. Down to 15, and it'll be 14 after our next match, where we do see Immortals. That's right, Immortals, the Brazilians that have been in the shadows of Luminosity for a while now, are playing a game of survival. This time they go up against another CIS team, and it will be Empire that's going up against them in another one-map wonder. It's going to be fantastic, and it's coming up after the break.